The National Organization for Marriage says that now that Donald's president, they have a plan to undo marriage equality. But can they do that? Is marriage really at risk? Yeah, it is. And in fact, ever since the Supreme Court granted nationwide marriage equality, a handful of our old friends have been exploring ways that they could weaken or roll back those rights. And now that Republicans control the federal government, they could set those plans in motion. Here's how they could do it in 3 easy steps. Step 1 is simply to weaken the protections of marriage. They can't stop marriage altogether, not at first, but in a variety of states there are subtler efforts already underway. For example, the Arkansas Supreme Court just gave the state the green light to withhold certain rights from same-sex married couples. In that case, it was the right to have both parents named on their kid's birth certificate. The court said that straight couples can automatically be listed as parents, even if one isn't biologically related to the child, but gay couples can't. There isn't even a pretense here of separate but equal. It's just explicitly separate and unequal. And take a look at what's happening in Texas. There's a group of citizens there suing to stop Houston from offering spousal benefits like health insurance to the same-sex spouses of city employees. The group says that even though the state has to issue a marriage license, it doesn't have to go further and treat the couple as though they're married. There's also a bill called SB 89 that goes even further. It says that the Texas Constitution, which prohibits same-sex marriage, trumps the U.S. Constitution. So, according to this law, the state shouldn't have to issue any marriage licenses to same-sex couples at all. Rulings and laws like these are popping up all over the country, and it seems like they ought to be unconstitutional, right? Well, they probably are, but that's going to be up to the U.S. Supreme Court to decide, and guess who's going to be in charge of appointing the next few Supreme Court justices? That gets us to step 2, strategically appointing Republicans in key positions. Among Donald's picks to fill seats on the Supreme Court is Bill Pryor, a judge who's already spoken in favor of letting states arrest gay couples for having sex in the privacy of their own homes. And this step isn't just about the Supreme Court. Donald's pick to run the Department of Justice is Jeff Sessions, who a decade ago tried to amend the U.S. Constitution to stop gays from marrying. If he becomes Attorney General now, Jeff Sessions could ask the Supreme Court to overturn marriage on behalf of the U.S. government. That carries a ton of weight, and we'd only need 2 justices like Bill Pryor for the court to say, okay. But wait, Jeff Sessions can't just show up at the Supreme Court whenever he feels like it. He'd need a lawsuit, some kind of legal conflict, in order to make an argument. Well, remember those weirdly unconstitutional laws and rulings happening at the state level? In a lot of those cases, the only way to resolve them is to bring them to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that brings us to step 3. The opponents of marriage equality have set up constitutional conflicts in the states. Nationally, they've installed allies at the courts and the Department of Justice, and now they'll have an excellent shot at using those conflicts and those officials to overturn marriage. It would be very weird if the U.S. Supreme Court reversed their marriage decision after just a few years. But very weird things have been happening a lot lately. And even if this strategy doesn't work, don't worry, they've got a backup plan. It's called the First Amendment Defense Act, and it wouldn't let the government overturn your marriage. It would let random strangers overturn your marriage. It does that by granting all people, which, remember, includes corporations now, the right to decide that they will not honor your marriage license. So you can get married, but then your insurance could refuse to extend coverage to your spouse. Or if you need time off to care for your sick partner, your boss can be like, "No, I don't think you're married." And if you think taxes are complicated now, wait until you have no idea whether some official at the IRS will insist that you're still single. So even if the Supreme Court isn't ready to overturn marriage yet, the First Amendment Defense Act will act as a little lawsuit engine, generating constitutional conflicts for years to come until the right case to overturn marriage equality comes along. And until then, you'll still be able to get married. But marriage won't mean what it once did. Marriage used to mean that you get a whole suite of rights and protections. But soon it could mean that you'll have no idea when those rights might just disappear. Marriage will constantly be changing depending on where you go and who you're talking to. So, in other words, the Republican plan is to redefine marriage. If you want to know more about these sneaky attempts to undermine marriage equality in the states, check out my video about the phantom roadmap to LGBT discrimination. And check out this video about how Republicans hide discrimination in religious freedom bills. You can watch those and a bunch more on my YouTube channel, and subscribe to get more videos like this. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments and at Matt Baum on Twitter. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'm about to marry a pig.
I now pronounce you frog and pig.
There'll be pork in the treetops come morning.